On this Friday night, Gazans scramble to flee. Israel orders the entire population of northern Gaza to move. The panic in a place already battered by airstrikes.
The health system is on the brink of collapse. Morgues are overflowing.
As Israel's prime minister says, he'll pound the enemy with unprecedented force.
I feel helpless. For the first time in my life, I feel helpless.
The pleas for Canada's government to help those trapped. And the tunnels of Gaza. Could this vast underground system be holding Israeli hostages taken by Hamas?
Global National with Donna Friesen.
When Israel attacks, Gazans know what's coming, but this is expected to be more relentless than ever before. Tonight, Israel's prime minister addressed the nation. We're fighting like lions, Benjamin Netanyahu said, and this is only the beginning. Israel says infantry and tanks have already entered the Gaza Strip in what the army calls localized raids. And earlier today, this airdrop over northern Gaza, what looks like gentle confetti, carried a deadly warning. Don't return to your homes until further notice. About 1.1 million Gazans told to get out or else. Ordered to move south across Wadi Gaza within the next 24 hours. The UN called that exodus impossible and pleaded for more time.
Even wars have rules. International humanitarian law and human rights law must be respected and upheld. Civilians must be protected and also never use the shields.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. The more than 2 million people in Gaza are now captive to Israel's next move. Israel says it's going after Hamas fighters who staged that brutal attack on Israel, and they're searching for hostages Hamas is holding. But of the nearly 1,800 people who have died in Gaza in 6 days, many are civilians, including children.
They're going to bomb all these buildings.
Canadian Asia Mathcour fears her and her 2 young children could be next. We spoke by Zoom yesterday. She said they were living minute by minute. Today, she sent this voice memo as they were fleeing Gaza's north.
We are evacuating now. We are evacuating our location now. We have no idea where we're heading right now. No idea at all. No one contacted us to go anywhere from the Canadian government. Yet.
She texted, no electricity, no Wi-Fi here, running low on phone battery, but they have made it south. Even hospitals in Gaza are being told to evacuate, which the World Health Organization says amounts to a death sentence for seriously ill patients. There is intense pressure on Israel to let in humanitarian aid and for safe passage to get foreign civilians out. We have complete coverage tonight, starting with Jeff Semple in Jerusalem. Jeff.
Donna, Israel's military told the United Nations that people in northern Gaza had until midnight Friday to relocate to the southern half of the Gaza Strip. And Israel also said that it intends to cut off all internet access to Gaza starting Saturday. It is, of course, already Saturday morning here in Jerusalem, suggesting that widely anticipated ground assault of Gaza could begin at any moment.
I'm preparing, I'm planning.
When we spoke with Aziz El-Khallout this morning, his family had packed their bags, preparing to head south. They live in northern Gaza, where these flyers were dropped by an Israeli warplane, warning they have to leave for their own security.
I'm a civilian, I'm a journalist, and I deny what happened. So why I should die, me and my family?
Global News has been in contact with Aziz all week as he's helped to support our coverage from inside Gaza. His family doesn't own a vehicle, so they plan to make the hours-long journey through bombed-out neighborhoods on foot.
It's not like a driving street. It's walking and hiding.
Palestinians already in southern Gaza say they've run out of places to stay and food to eat.
All these people in the hospital cannot be evacuated. Where's humanity? Where's people's hearts in the world to let this happen in this day and age?
Hamas urged Palestinians to reject Israel's evacuation order and to rise up in violent protest after Friday prayers. Israeli police responded with heightened security. preventing many young Muslims from gathering and praying at the Al-Aqsa Mosque, one of Islam's holiest sites and a common flashpoint. In the West Bank, Palestinian youth clashed with the Israeli military. 9 Palestinians were killed. According to officials, at least 49 Palestinians have died in clashes in the West Bank since Saturday's attack on Israel by Hamas.
Well, what happened in Israel actually happens in Palestine every day, and nobody talks about it.
This Palestinian entrepreneur runs a tech startup. She says the West's support of Israel's bombing campaign in Gaza sends a painful message to Palestinians.
This situation exposed the world, let's say, and exposed the real view and double standards of the world towards the Palestinian people and how they regard us as not as equal people, but as subhumans, unfortunately.
What we see in Gaza is an act of annihilation. Nothing in the world could justify this. A crime does not justify another crime.
This Palestinian political leader, whose party opposes Hamas, points to the pro-Palestinian protests erupting Friday across the Arab world as a sign that this conflict risks spiraling far beyond Gaza's borders.
What I expect is more vicious attacks. Israel is saying that they are preparing a ground invasion. This could lead to a very huge explosion in the north. And this could mean regional war, not just war with Palestinians.
I tried to evacuate my house.
Late Friday night, we received an update from Aziz El-Khallout. His family couldn't find a ride or make it out on foot. He says there's no escape.
I don't know what to do. I'm going to stay home. And all of you, please forgive me and pray for me and my family.
For those Palestinians trapped in Gaza, there really is no way out. Those leaflets that fell in Gaza today warned that anyone who tried to flee into Israel risked being shot to death. The only other viable pathway out would be Egypt through that border, but the Egyptian government has closed that door to any potential Palestinian refugees. As a result, we heard a lot of anecdotal reports today that while many Palestinians did move to the south, many others remain in the north, refusing to leave their homes, either desperate or defiant, unable or unwilling to leave. Donna?
Not a lot of options. Jeff Semple in Jerusalem, thanks. Caught in this are about 150 people with connections to Canada who have asked the government for help. They have no way out right now. Mercedes Stephenson is with me. Mercedes, what is the Canadian government doing to help its citizens get out of Gaza?
Donna, the Prime Minister has made it clear that the government of Canada supports Israel and its right to defend itself. But there is also deep concern for civilians, including Canadian citizens who are trapped in Gaza with rapidly worsening conditions, no way out, and an impending extraordinary ground assault coming. In today's official briefing in Ottawa, we learned that there may be a window opening for Canadian citizens to leave Gaza tomorrow between 12 and 5 p.m. at the Rafah border crossing into Egypt. But that is far from certain yet. Foreign Affairs says that they are not encouraging any Canadian citizens to start moving towards the Rafah gate at this time.
The last thing we want is Canadians getting stuck at a border. That border, there are a number of security challenges at all the borders into Gaza. We know that there have been bombs at both borders in the last week.
Global Affairs Canada warned that there is still so much up in the air, and they weren't able to really give a lot of specific answers, Donna, something that they have come under fire for when it comes to Canadian citizens who are currently trapped in Gaza. Israeli officials told Global News that they have been in discussions with the Canadian government about Canadian citizens, but so far there's no indication that Israel would consider taking the security risk of allowing anyone, including Canadians, through the gate on their side of the border. Now, Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly was in Israel for talks today, and she was at the airport meeting with Canadians who are boarding evacuation flights run by the Canadian Armed Forces headed to Athens, Greece. Joly is set to be in the region until Saturday. She will be engaging a number of nations, including Greece and Jordan. And the Israeli government has said through sources to us and intelligence officials that one of the things they are asking Western powers to do is to lobby those in the region to avoid further escalation. Donna?
All right, Mercedes Stephenson in Ottawa, thanks. The American Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has gone to Israel. He reiterated American support. He said the U.S. is prepared to send more military aid.
The USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group is now in the region, led by the largest aircraft carrier in the world. We've augmented U.S. fighter aircraft squadrons in the Middle East, and the U.S. Department of Defense stands fully ready to deploy additional assets if necessary.
He met with Israel's defense minister and the prime minister. Over a dozen Americans are missing. The U.S. President Joe Biden spoke with some of their families today.
They're going through agony, not knowing what the status of their sons, daughters, husbands, wives, children are. You know, it's gut-wrenching. I assured them my personal commitment to do everything possible to return every missing American to their families.
A journalist with Reuters has been killed in southern Lebanon. Videographer Issam Abdallah was part of a crew that was live streaming video from near the Israel-Lebanon border. Just seconds after hearing these gunshots, the team was hit. 6 other journalists were injured. Global News is not airing the moment it happened. Reuters has confirmed Abdallah was killed and is urgently seeking more information and working with authorities in the region. Demonstrations were held in a number of countries today supporting Palestinians and denouncing the Israeli bombardment of Gaza. In Yemen, tens of thousands chanted "Death to America, death to Israel." Demonstrations also took place in the Middle East, Asia, and Europe. Germany and France had banned pro-Palestinian demonstrations, and several Western countries said they stepped up security at synagogues and Jewish schools. Gaza underground. Coming up, why these tunnels are a pivotal factor in Israel's assault and the search for hostages. Plus the grim stories of survival from those who lived through the Hamas massacre. When Hamas militants attacked people in southern Israel, it was horrific. Civilians were murdered and kidnapped. Israel's military says more than 1,300 people were killed. At least 150 others were taken hostage. Survivors now are trying to piece together their lives, worried about the loved ones held captive, wondering why it was allowed to happen, and struggling with all they witnessed. Crystal Goomansingh has been talking to some of them.
The talk at this beautiful Mediterranean seaside resort doesn't match the aesthetic.
I ran and my husband went slower, and it was raining bombs.
Last weekend, Malka Koretsky and her husband found themselves hiding in a shelter at their son's home on the Al-Yumim kibbutz, right beside Gaza.
If I would have known what was going on outside, I think I wouldn't have survived it. It was like my mother survived the Holocaust, and my father also, and my sister also. And they always told me that they were hiding. They were hiding, and no one was looking after them. No one was taking care of them. No one was nothing. And I had the same feeling.
There are now countless videos showing people fleeing for their lives from the area around the kibbutz. The festival, where many other videos were recorded, took place nearby. After attacking people there, the killers moved on to the communal living location. Most of the images are so appalling, we need to blur them. For the survivors, donations are being collected. Roughly 400 people from the Al-Yumim and the Mithelsim kibbutz fled with just the clothes on their backs.
And everybody is helping.
For now, this hotel is home. In the basement, there are piles of clothes and shoes and kids' items, even a playroom for little ones. But it is all a thin cover over some deep pain.
I've lost countless friends, and also friends, we don't know where they are. If they're dead, if they're in Gaza, I don't know.
Michael Huller says people talk and hug, and they work. He started calling people to organize donations to keep busy. But he says what he really wants is for Israel to be safe so he and his family can go home. Crystal Goomansingh, Global News, Netanya, Israel.
Still ahead, the underground maze in Gaza, why it exists and why Israel wants to smash it.
Global News is on the ground as the crisis in the Middle East unfolds.
Just a ton of explosions happening all around us.
For the latest developments, watch Global National and go to globalnews.ca.
The Gaza Strip has been under a suffocating blockade by Israel, backed by Egypt, since 2007, when Hamas seized control of Gaza. Palestinians and aid groups say it amounts to collective punishment. It restricts entry of goods and people and of equipment that could be used to make weapons. And that has led to an array of tunnels being dug. Hamas uses them to smuggle and store weapons and to move around secretly. Now, as Redmond Shannon explains, Israel suspects they're being used to hide hostages.
More than 1,500 people have died in Israel's week of airstrikes on Gaza. Israel's defense forces say they only target Hamas militants, the buildings they use, and their tunnels.
Think of the Gaza Strip as one layer for the civilians and then another layer for Hamas. And what we're doing now is that we are trying to get to that second layer.
Nicknamed the Gaza Metro by Israel, the vast network of tunnels may look something like this. They're used to hide out or move around covertly, and now likely a place to hold some of the hostages. Border tunnels to Egypt are used to smuggle goods and weapons as Gaza remains under blockade. Hamas has used tunnels to Israel to stage attacks in the past. 2 years ago, Israel finished a subterranean wall designed to stop militants from tunneling into Israel. That may explain why Saturday's attack appeared to take place, at least primarily, above ground. Inside Gaza, the tunnel network is estimated to be up to 30 meters deep.
It makes a huge complication. This is a very difficult challenge.
Military analyst Eitan Shamir says the tunnels are thought to be most dense in northern Gaza, from where residents have been told to leave. He believes hostages are almost certainly held in those tunnels, but that Israeli forces won't let that distract them from targeting militants.
If you start to take the hostages situation into account, the effect will be total paralysis. This is exactly what Hamas wanted Israel to be in this corner.
Drones and robot technology will allow soldiers to detect some booby traps underground. Even still, the sprawling network of tunnels could make the coming days much more deadly on both sides, and potentially for hostages too. Redmond Shannon, Global News, London.
Next, the Israeli-Canadian reservists ready to risk their lives on the front lines against Hamas. Military service is compulsory in Israel, and right now more than 300,000 reservists with the Israeli Defense Force are being called up. Just a few months ago, thousands of them had stopped reporting for duty, protesting Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's deeply unpopular judicial reforms. But after that attack by Hamas on southern Israel, they are answering the call. And among them are some Israeli Canadians. Dan Spector has their story.
When you get the call, you answer, and here I am.
A week ago, 28-year-old Orel was home in Toronto. Now, the Israeli-Canadian, whose last name we're not airing due to safety concerns, is at war.
I just got back from a mission, and I've got a little bit of time, that's why.
Born and raised in Canada to a family of Israelis, he says he moved to Israel at 21 to join the Israeli Defense Forces before returning to the Toronto area for the past 2 years. After last Saturday's attack by Hamas militants, the reservist was called up to fight.
I actually took an AC-130 with 180 other soldiers that are just like me from Canada and from the States into Israel.
Orel says he and his unit have witnessed scenes of horror.
We all have. There's not a way to describe it.
But he's staying focused as his family back home holds its breath.
They got nothing to worry about. I can take care of myself. My unit, pretty capable guys. Everything seems to be going our way, let's put it that way.
In Winnipeg, this 37-year-old Israeli-born pilot is waiting for the call to join Orel in his home country.
It's hard enough for me to live with myself right now, knowing very well that I tried to get called and didn't manage.
He spent most of his life in Israel before moving to Canada with his family 5 years ago. The IDF reserve captain fought in the 2014 Gaza war.
On the first or second day, we lost our commanding officer and 3 other soldiers to a terrorist attack.
Now, as the war rages, he's overcome by survivors' guilt.
I know they know that if I'm ever called, I am on the next plane back to help my people.
Back on the front line, Orel has little time to rest, but his spirits are high.
We're here to do the job and to get it done and to keep it positive. We need to get back into a positive state of mind and to not think about the bad things.
Just one of countless lives being risked with every passing moment as the violence in the region continues. Dan Spector, Global News, Montreal.
And that is Global National for this Friday. I'm Donna Friesen. The world is watching what's unfolding in Gaza and Israel, where so many innocent people have died. Tonight, we leave you with some of the tributes being laid at Palestinian and Israeli embassies. Thanks for watching.